Okay. All right. Well, hello everyone. My name is Sasha Kainde. Welcome to Radio TV in Pinduka. Want to thank you all for watching us and the support you show us. Today, I'm here back with my distinguished panelists. We will be speaking on the current crisis that's still ongoing in the Eastern Congo. And today's topic is Beyond Condemnations. Sorry, just a second. Beyond Condemnations, who and how can we stop the M23 RDF militias in the Eastern DRC? So to begin with, I'll just introduce my guests and let them introduce themselves as well. My panelists are Mr. Celestin Sengiyumva, Mr. Justin Bahunga, and Mr. Ambrose Nzeyimana. We'll start with Ambrose Celestine and then Justin. So welcome to panel. If you'd love to say hello to our viewers.
Thank you, Sasha. I'm Ambrose Nzeyimana. I'm a human rights activist here in London, UK.
Welcome, welcome.
My name
Mr.
is
Celestin.
Justin.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Justin Bahunga. I'm a political analyst, but also acting as a politician at times. I live in London. I'm a member of one of the political parties, FDP Hinji.
Welcome. And Mr. Celestin. Thank you for last to introduce.
Good morning to you all. I'm pleased to join this panel of distinguished panelists. And my name is Ngiumba Celestine. I live in Buffalo, New York, and I'm delighted to be part of this discussion about the current crisis in Eastern Congo and in the greater African Great Lakes area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So as we were speaking earlier, there seems to be so many varying narratives. It becomes very hard for everyday people to actually understand what is going on. Like what is the actual unfolding on the ground versus what the different parties' narratives, or even when it comes to Rwanda, full propaganda are saying. So we were going to ask Mr. Justin Bahunga to give us a nice summary of particularly the last couple months on what's going on. Then we will have everyone on the panel give their viewpoint as well, or add any points.
Thank you so much. I will say that it's really necessary to have a context. But I'm not very sure that those who are hearing us now know the background to this crisis. And for me, I stand to be corrected by my colleagues. What is happening now is a part of a general strategy of the RPF regime to control or to arrive to a point where they can get either directly control the Kivu or get to secede from the rest of the DRC. And what you are seeing is one episode which started in 1996 when Rwanda, using Kabila as a frontman, formed a group to go and remove Mobutu. And when he tried to resist, then he was assassinated with the war of 1998, where we had Uganda and Rwanda, the Burundi forces, joining hands to remove Kabila. And this is when he called armies from SADC to come and support him, and came to what was called the First African World War. When then he was assassinated, then we moved another group, which RCD, which was formed by Rwanda, which almost took over Congo. Then you had this negotiation which ended up in the agreement of Sun City. After that, then when I think Rwanda found it was not so pliant as they had wanted, then they created another CNDP of Nkunda, which was replaced again by M23, which was defeated in 2012, and then is elected now in 2021. So it is a continuation of all these attempts by the Rwandan government, the regime, to control Eastern Congo if it cannot reach the main objective of getting secede from the rest of Congo. So it has been as it was before, when people get surprised, taken Goma, taken Bukavu. So this will not be the first time. It will not be the first time, because before they took also Kisangani, almost reached Kinshasa. So that's what we are seeing now. And the next we are seeing, probably what you are asking, who can stop them now? In 2012, it was the UN Special Brigade, Intervention Brigade, which ended the adventure. But this time around, who's going to do it? Probably that will be the next question. But that's probably what I think is happening now. But what we have, I think sometimes we talk about the war, but rarely do we feel and understand and be conscious of the damages which these wars have caused. Right now, it is said that we have got more than 12 million Congolese who have died because of these wars. And if you compare it to these 12 million who died since 1996, you compare to during the 3 centuries of the slave trade, we had equal number of people who crossed over to the Americas. There were about 10 million crossed over to the Americas, and you have 7 million internally displaced in the Congo. You have more than 1 million Congolese who are refugees. So, and I always wonder, and if you ask maybe in African, how many people have been in this war, I don't know if people would be able to tell you that so many people have died. And you remember also that under Leopold II, when he had when he occupied or he owned the Congo, 1884 up to 1907, 10 million Congolese had died being forced to produce rubber, which was actually what was needed at that time. Now it is no longer rubber, it is now strategic minerals. So I think it's very important to comprehend and to make people aware of the human catastrophe that all these wars have caused. And of course, under the name, it will be another topic, that how would you justify or use the narrative of Rwanda to justify that so many people can die? So I will stop there and intervene later, but that's probably the background I would like to give you before, but I'll intervene later. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that summary. I think the key thing you brought up is this idea of continuity. I've been noticing that, well, I was too young to remember all the previous names they gave themselves that you give as a summary of. But once you understand that there's a continuity of actors, there's a continuity of also the goal and the purpose of all these wars. And more I find people shy away from speaking about it. This is about the balkanization and the destruction of the DRC Congo as a large country. And we all know that the balkanization is not for Africans, but for the benefit of Western powers and corporations. So we'll get Mr. Ambrose next. If you have any thoughts you'd like to add from what Mr. Bahunga just shared with us. And my apologies, I come from an English country, so I tend to call you guys by your first name. I know in Kenya, Rwanda, it may be rude, but it's just cultural norms that I've become used to. Please.
Yeah. I would like to come back to that idea you brought up about the Balkanization of Africa. In fact, that's what I wanted to add also to the narrative around that background. What we people don't see that they are not mainly aware of is the fact that the role of Rwanda, the RPF, and the Rwandan president in this whole tragedy in the Great Lakes region, though he's serving his own ethnic community interest, particularly a small elite in that Tutsi community, he is there in the region as a proxy for the interest of the West, particularly the multinationals. The multinationals who are interested in the minerals of the region, particularly that part of the DRC, the two Kivus, the north and the south of Kivu. And when you look at that aspect and seeing this repetition of the same crisis with different parameters and actors, somehow Kigali naming militias different names as the time goes. You understand that even these resolutions, which have been taken by the UN Security Council, it's not the first time the UN took resolutions about this crisis, but still, those who are behind the crisis over the years are beyond those resolutions. So they keep repeating whatever is going on until the cessation of Eastern Congo become a different province or state as they did with South Sudan. And that's what I see. And when I go back to the title, Who and How to Stop This Crisis. Personally, Africans are lucky nowadays because they have role models. And those models, they can look at these three states in the Sahel region. They were confronted in a different manner, in a different scale, with the same ill, because their resources, they were targeted by Western companies, Western countries, you name France, EU, European Union, through different military expeditions they sent in the Sahel region. All of them, they were after the minerals of that region. But once these military people who are ruling in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso took over the power in those countries, they expelled them. Congolese, the DRC, unless they learn from what these three countries did and they find among themselves courageous young people, young military even, I don't see how they will come over this strategy, because whatever the alliances they were trying to develop with external powers, if among Congolese there is no no group, no one who is ready to take over the leadership, ready to die for Congo. I don't see any other source of remedy to their situation.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. You mentioned something, how the Security Council, I'm assuming this is at the UN, where they bring up different topics, and this time again, Congo's once again in the limelight. But I also noticed that each time the context is removed. And one of the things I noticed it does to society is that it almost acts as erasing your memory. So we're now speaking about something that's happening in 25, but the context of the previous Security Council and the history are almost erased. So you are left as a new person coming into this thinking, wow, this new thing just happened. Let's deal with it. And then the solutions will be there. But there is something Kagame always likes to say, what are the root causes? What are the root causes of this whole crisis? And this constant erasing context is so powerful. And so thank you for always kind of when I speak to people younger than me, they're always asking, why do you always go back to dates? What is this like? Why are you forcing us to go back to a historical context? But without that historical context, it's very easy to miss that this has been a very, very long proxy war, again, with a goal of balkanization. So next we will invite Mr. Celestin to give us his viewpoint and any analysis of this topic.
Thank you, Sasha. I thank you very much. And when we talk about this issue of the absence of peace in the African Great Lakes region, and when we hear people like President Kagame bringing up the issue of the root cause, Sasha, President Kagame is the root cause of instability in this area of the African continent. His group invaded Rwanda in 1990, and that invasion was a breach of international law. They crossed an international border, and they did it at a time when President Museveni was the current chairman of the Organization of African Union. And that environment prevented a global condemnation of that violation of peace. And it led to a military takeover of an independent country. And what is known today as a genocide was also involved in all that process. And a remnant of that genocide, or some of the parties involved in the genocide, crossed over into Congo, and that brought about the invasion of Congo. Justin discussed a while ago. And for that purpose, the Rwandan root cause, President Kagame invented some kind of political movement in Congo. There was RCD or RCD and many others, including that situation has evolved to today's M23 movement. So that account for what we know as the root cause. The root cause is the instability which has been ignited in the region when RPF combatants crossed the border of Rwanda and were given a free hand and a free ride into the Republic of Rwanda. They killed the president of Rwanda together with the president of Burundi, and there was no condemnation to that situation. And so this kind of gave them a free ride to do whatever they like, provided that they be supported. by powerful foreign interests. These interests, Sasha, they may be state interests or non-state actors. In today's situation, all governments, Western governments, I mean, most of them, including France, Belgium, Germany, UK, America has declared sanctions against one of the leaders of Rwanda. So all these government organizations have condemned the conquest of Kivu by Rwanda government forces, together with their proxy called M23. So it remains now the non-state actors, and they don't appear. They don't want to come in the open, but they are powerful. They are powerful. They have been able to empower the army of Rwanda to perform what they have performed in Kivu. The empowerment they have given the regime of Mr. Kagame is basically in terms of resources and also in terms of diplomatic support, political and diplomatic support. These private interests have been able to pressurize their their representatives in state institutions, pressurizing them to refrain from outright condemnation of the activities of Rwandan armies in Eastern Congo. So at that juncture, we understand that, of course, the two provinces of Kivu have been taken over by M23, supported by Rwanda government forces. This is not, well, you can call it an open secret. They deny it, but it is a reality. It is a truth which is hidden in the open public square. Everybody knows who these people are and what they do. So just denying it does not mean that it is not true, Sasha. So they deny it, even today, but we know that they are in charge. How do we know it? We know that
I was going to say all across the world, we're seeing a private public partnership where a lot of governments are using their private sector to go against for international law, essentially. And so with the Congo thing, it's quite complicated because even if we can get all the state actors, like you say, if we're not able to challenge, let's say, Apple, these really big names, to also be accountable to this, are we even beginning the fight at all? So that was just an interesting point that I found you brought up.
Yes, Sasha, there are ways to escape accountability. You see, these international non-state actors, they can change names. You accuse Apple, and then they get another name. They can. So it is not like state actors cannot change the Kingdom of Belgium. It is going to be always the Kingdom of Belgium. But Apple, Siemens, Lonro, Glencore, these non-state actors can change names and continue to escape accountability. But today it is encouraging, Sasha, that yesterday the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court was in Kinshasa, and he announced that, I'm quoting him, that enough is enough. He wants everybody who has been committing these heinous crimes to be brought before judges, to answer for their crimes, because these crimes are horrendous. They are, as Justin pointed it out, they are continuous since over 100 years. The people of Congo has suffered a martyr treatment since the advent of colonization. And this issue of balkanization, or whatever name you want to give it, it needs to be stopped. And the only way to stop it, Sasha, would be to implement, in the absence of a military conquest to crush them, a military operation to crush these rebels and the Rwanda government forces. I think a battery of sanctions could bring these conquering marauders, could bring them to their knees.
Because they're no longer functioning in law. They're now functioning in profits and pure capital and pure looting. So unless we're able to meet them there, it's clearly shown that the Congolese army is strong, but it needs to be a two-tiered approach. I think the next speaker we were going to have is Mr. Justin Bahunga, if, of course, Celestine, if you didn't have any other points to add.
I just wanted to add that when you say that Congolese army, well, this army has been running away from engagement with the rebels. The army does not have, it is not being led by professional officers. Congo has been independent for over 60 years. The reason why Congo doesn't have an army is that the Congo has been always sabotaged. It has been.
Okay, you can go.
Mr. Justin Bahunga, are you still there?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that again. We're just having some technical issues. Again, it's me, Sasha. We're here to speak on the ongoing crisis in Eastern Congo. We had just been speaking about RDF M23 and how they're able to remain so stubborn and arrogant despite international condemnations. And also, I believe part two, before if Mr. Justin Bahunga is not here with us, we were going to start diving deep on these sanctions. Are they actual sanctions? Can they have an actual impact on the ongoing crisis? Or is this one of those just sort of narrative building things, hoping that the world will quiet down because of this? So, Mr. Ambrose, I believe you know a little bit on what's going on with USA aid and all that, how that might impact the region. So we can start from there.
Yeah. Before we go to the US aid, I would like to add a recent development about the crisis in DRC. Apparently, in the last negotiation between DRC and the US, the President Tshisekedi, he is one of his elements of negotiation. He's offering Trump minerals against peace, which is personally not a good thing in my view. It's like selling your country somehow, the wealth of your country. It's like I don't know how they call it in English. It's like outsourcing the peace instead of taking full responsibility for your own peace. Again, that brings me back to that issue of leadership, the sense of sacrifice that patriotic Congolese have to really be ready to take for the peace of their country. Let me jump.
May I add a point? May I add a point there? It's something I've noticed with the Congolese political elites. Few of them are really willing to disturb their quality of life, or the quality of life they've been able to create amongst all that war. So they would rather bargain parts of the country or even the wealth of the country to maintain the comfort in the quality of life they have. Not understanding the goal with looting the minerals is to keep the country underdeveloped and unstable. Giving the minerals does not mean the country will now be more stable. You might have peace, but you will never have the growth because they will never allow you to have that part. So I just wanted to add that point. Please continue.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's jump to the next part of the question, the US aid, which was stopped temporarily, as Trump said in the first week of his presidency. He has paused the US aid in all areas, I think, from development aid that include health, education. He has ordered the removal from different treaties, like the one which put the US part of the contributor of the World Health Organization, and many others. And the purpose, he's saying, is to check out if that those billions of US money were serving the US interests. The perspective we should look at as the recipient of that US aid as African countries is to see how these those executive orders of suspending aid could help African countries to do what they have missed out, lacked doing for decades, which means to become self-reliant in many areas of their development. And again, I go back to the Sahel region, and I have several examples which show that Africa can self-develop. A few weeks ago, I was following a report from the Ministry of Agriculture in Burkina Faso, and it follows a whole year after the President Ibrahim Traore, had told his colleague, African president in Moscow, I remember, he was telling them, thanking Putin that he had granted a number of African countries some wheat to support them because of the war in Ukraine had disturbed the flow of wheat because Ukraine was from where most of wheat arriving in Africa was coming from. So Ibrahim Traore at that time told his colleague that despite Putin giving them that aid, they shouldn't continue going around the world begging, because they have the land, the manpower to grow whatever they need in terms of food. And back in Burkina Faso, he started a program of becoming self-reliant, particularly in producing wheat. the report at the end of 2024 from his Ministry of Agriculture was that they have exceeded what they planned to achieve, and they have inaugurated their first meal factory, which is aiming to start even exporting this end of this year to neighboring countries. So he's aiming to produce enough for his people and export into whole region, meaning Trump stopping aid, it could be really a big incentive for African countries to become self-reliant in many areas. Let me, maybe I should stop
Yeah,
here.
that is very, very true, because I found that so many of these aid programs were things that the government themselves need to actually invest in. There is no reason why you should be getting exterior aid about healthcare when you have when you can educate and create your own healthcare workers. So I find that the Sahel has been such a great, it's so inspiring to watch such young leaders not actually just speak, but their actions. I saw a video of high-tech farming equipment being brought into the country. And this high-tech farming, maybe it's in the millions, but to have a leader who understands how that will impact his people, how that will change not just their ability to feed themselves, but the dignity and the sovereignty that comes with that ability. It's just incredible. And I hope whatever's happening in the Sahel spreads across the continent. Mr. Bahunga, I see we are back with us. We had not
Yes,
given you a chance to give a comment. So if you want to give your comments, wrapping up what we'd spoken about, why M23 is still so stubborn, and your thoughts
exactly.
on the aid send.
No, thank you very much indeed. I thought really you hadn't talked, given due consideration to the issue. One, I think we underestimate what the difficulties that the Congo's government is meeting, and also the effort they are making. Because as far as I follow them, I think there's three or four areas where they're working on. I think they have identified the problem, the weaknesses of Paul Kagame, which is his strength was diplomacy, it was economy, and it was also military power, military force. And we can agree, all of us, that at the diplomatic level, they have been extremely well. And when you hear even the comments of the Rwanda government, I had one saying, whenever you go for any conference, even if it is about water and electricity, they start by saying this Rwanda is a problem. And you might have realized that in many conferences now, Kagame, I think when he knows that Tshisekedi is going, he doesn't attend. I think it's something with him tremendous. Number two, in terms of on the legal aspect, which I think Celestine touched with the prosecutor of the ICC, he was very categorical with this when he reached Kinshasa. And I think I'm perhaps be interesting to what he said. Let me just see. It will be very interesting to hear what he said. He said, this is a moment where we will see if international humanitarian law can withstand demands that the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo insist upon with equal application of the law. Adding, the people of the DRC are as precious as the people of Ukraine, the people of Israel or Palestine, girls or women of Afghanistan. This is what he said in his statement when he arrived. And I'm sure you can dare convict Putin or Netanyahu. I think we not to hesitate to act on what is happening or on the criminal crimes committed by Rwanda. About minerals also, if you will say up, but also they have had an active campaign against those who are buying minerals from Rwanda, which make money for them to wage the war. One of the results we can see is when you see the resolution of the European Parliament, one thing they said they want to review the agreement with Rwanda is something I think we have to take into consideration. That's something they're doing very well. In terms of the army, of the defense, I think Satan was right to say it is in disarray. But one of the things that caused this, and I think he said also, is that since 1996, hasn't been any national army. And what Congo is resisting is exactly each time there is a rebellion, they ask for integration with the massage and brassage, which they infiltrate the army. And that's how these guys who make rebellion in the East, these are the guys who are in the army who have been integrated. And that's why he's resisting. So, and what I know also that they are quite aware, I was listening to one of the ministers, that they know that the security of Congo is to have a national army strong enough that anyone who's threatened Congo will know or be conscious that they can win his capital in the next 48 hours. But then I can go to the next one. What is it? I want to listen now. I can't see there's a difference. There's a difference in these resolutions. If you see the words, or we're talking about different governments, especially the UK and the US, which have been shielding or protecting the Rwandan government, then you can say something is changing. Contrary to the African who are members of the Security Council now, the three, Sierra Leone, Algeria, and Somalia, they have been the ones who have been resisting in the resolution to say that Rwanda is the perpetrator, is the one supporting the M23. If you look at the statements made by the UK and the US, even taking action against Rwanda, it is not something that we have seen before. We remember that the report, what they call Jason report of 1994, saying that 45,000 people have been killed by the RPF. The UK and the US on record have worked to make sure it doesn't come out what they say to destabilize the regime. The killing of Kibeho massacres, 1994 or 95 in April, again, it was covered because they thought it would destabilize this regime. The mapping report, not even the mapping report, when in 1996 or 98, when you had this first African World War, there was the Congo wanted to write to complain at the UN level to call Rwanda aggressor. And strangely, they agreed on the term saying invited and non-invited forces to avoid calling Uganda forces and Rwandan forces aggressors. Because if I said aggression, you have called for other actions. But today, it is the UK and the US who are complaining that other members of the council don't dare put a finger at the one who has committed the crime to Rwanda. And you have seen also at the African level that they're always saying, I was surprised that in their statement, in the meeting of East African Community and the SADC, they use the term uninvited forces, meaning Rwanda, instead of saying Rwanda, they use the term in their communique, uninvited forces. So and then that action we have seen, being a sanction to Kabarebe is not something very small. if you look at the system in Rwanda, he's probably the key person, I think, who, after Kagame, is probably has more authority than anyone else about what is happening. It's not something you can say is very small. The UK, I think, has taken a position also. So, and the minister had been there, I think, 2 days ago. So we cannot take these actions as very simple and straightforward. They have good. Also, I think what we have seen is that Rwanda not to be voted, to miss even one other person at the African Union Peace and Security Council. You know, they want to be members. They got only one vote, which is our own vote. So it's a kind of I think the image of Rwanda is completely gone down, and the not acting is much more difficult than before. So if you see it all, and again, the terms which are used when you say Rwanda has violated international law, violated the UN Charter, these are the terms, but don't know the term that you can use very easily. Or saying, I mean, you remember the US was more clear. They said, well, for months, we have been trying to ask Rwanda to stop, but it has ignored this. And what are we waiting for to act? And actually, one of the head of the Foreign Relations Committee said, if Biden administration had been tough enough, the world would not be what it is now. So, in my view, the definite change of attitude, and that's why I think it is good that they say in politics, there's no permanent friend, there's not a permanent enemy. I think Rwanda becoming an embarrassment to those who were supporting it before. And I suspect, and if we were in their place, I will change course. And as I said before, this is not the first time that there have been Goma have been Baran, Bukavu have been Baran, Kisangani. But in my view, that Kagame is not in the good books, and he's not going he's not in his best shoes. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned about double standards, but you also mentioned about Sierra Leone. I don't know if I have the country right, but it reminds me of Charles Taylor, how you can be used and used and used, and at some point, once you're no longer useful, you will be removed. And I think Rwanda's propaganda, particularly their media sphere, they did such a good job that I believe they also started believing their own propaganda in how they're seen, how they stand. It's been very encouraging seeing other Africans finally saying things like, "Oh, I had no idea this man was actually like this." He's created this image of Pan-Africanism somehow, which it doesn't make sense, but now it's crumbling and more people really see the naked aggression from Kagame and the Rwandan regime. So it will be very interesting to see if there is a regime change attempt for him after sanctions and after all of this. Yeah.
Mr. Something we talked about Taylor.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
is actually, I think, one of the problems for Kagame to give in is the fear of what will happen to him after. As you remember, Taylor was tried for having supported a group in Sierra Leone which committed crimes. So if it's not the crimes he committed in Liberia, it is funding a rebel movement in Sierra Leone which was accused of serious crimes. Now
that's the exact same situation.
Exactly. And in 2012, actually, this the U.S. Investigator for I think for international crimes, RAP, he threatened Kagame. He said, if you continue, you might have the same fate like Taylor. And no, Taylor is now he's been jailed for 50 years. So I think that fear of, maintaining and not perhaps retreating, this must be one of the problems, that once he leaves, this group is defeated, and then to go to International Criminal Tribunal and so on, And remember also Bemba. Bemba was also put in was to The Hague because of what his troops did in the Central African Republic. So there is a serious threat to him. And then even now, what happened in Goma, what's happening in Bukavu, it's very difficult to escape. And he knows all those other crimes committed by the RPF, the army, will come back to him. So for him, it is a matter of life and death, as you're saying. It's a matter of life and death. It's not very easy for him. Thank you. That's what I
No,
want
thank
to
you
add.
very much. So I was thinking we could begin sort of wrapping up or everyone kind of giving their closing statements, really focusing on the sanctions. And yes, the sanctions are on Kabarebe, but as we all know, General Kabarebe, the political class of Rwanda is so intermingled, particularly how money moves, that this will not just impact him or his direct family. So in your closing stations, I'm just very curious, do you think this economic pressure will have any effect to actual Rwanda? And will it have any effect to Congolese being able to fight against RDF M23 better? So we can start, I believe, with Ambrose, then we'll go up to Celestine, and we'll finish off with Mr. Bahunga.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. In closing, one thing I would like to remind our viewers is that about the position of Somali and Sierra Leone and Algeria, apparently they were being influenced at the UN Security Council by France to take a position, the same position as France at that level. But when France saw that the US had come strongly against Kagame and Rwanda, so even France couldn't feel strong enough to stand alone supporting Kagame. So even the African countries which were being influenced by France, the three of them mentioned, he had to back down and side with that council. In closing, the sanctions that are being brought up against the Rwandan government, of course, they will have an impact. The same way, for example, what South Africa did in the crisis in Palestine recently, the accusation of genocide against Netanyahu, that impacted on the international scene against Israeli government. And the sanction against Rwanda will, of course, impact strongly on the Rwandan economy. Last time they were brought up, they made Kagame and his RPF to back off and call back his militia, the M23 back in 2012 or 13. On the Congolese side, I'm afraid if the Congolese continue only to count on the resolutions by external actors, but themselves not being more patriotic and do the necessary reforms, particularly at the military level and the administration level, remove all the infiltrated people by Kigali, it will be difficult to have a lasting peace lasting peace for the country. That's where I would end my last intervention, saying that it's up to the Congolese really to change the way they handle the whole tragedy which has engulfed their country.
Yes, thank you very much. Nationalism, a healthy amount of nationalism, I think, is needed. And I still see sometimes online this differentiation between the West and East in people from Congo, where some people still seem to have this idea it's happening over there. So definitely some sort of nationalism with people all coming in together and realizing they're all impacted with this is definitely needed. Next, we'll have Mr. Nsengiyumva, and then Mr. Bahunga.
Sasha, you are right. In Congo, there is the east and the west. Between Kinshasa and Goma or Bukavu, there are 2,000 kilometers. It's about 1,500 miles. So they don't have the same sensibility. That's one thing. The other thing is that the people, the soldiers sent by Kinshasa to Goma, they feel like they are in a foreign land. They don't speak the language, and they get difficult getting through in intelligence gathering. But having said that, we need to recognize that now in 2025, the situation is much different from what it was in the 1990s. In those years, RPF was able to hide its many crimes. They were able to shield it from the view of international media. But today, in the era of social media, the heinous crimes committed in Goma and Bukavu are already on the world screen, the global screens, in a matter of minutes. So today, RPF and its minions, they are not able to escape the qualification of villains. They are killers, they are marauders, they are looters, they are invaders. They are now unable to hide it. It is in public view. And I think that is a factor that works against them. Eventually, they would need to recognize that they are putting themselves in a situation whereby everybody is seeing them as they are. That is villains. On the other hand, the sanctions being enacted by governments, America, by UK, by Belgium, by even Germany, and in the near future by the entire European Union, these sanctions are going to force the planners in Kigali to think more than twice about their own future. As Justin recalled a while ago, the chief prosecutor of the ICC is in Kinshasa as we speak, and he has been outright.
Karim Khan?
Yes.
Karim Khan? Okay.
Yes.
Karim Khan is in Kinshasa, and he wants equal justice for all the criminals, be it Putin, Netanyahu, or Kagame. There's not going to be a differential treatment. And what we need also to underline is that the protection the president of Rwanda has been having from the UK and from America, that protection is no longer there. They are the first to kind of expose the criminal behavior of their former ally. So, as Justin rightly said, these countries, they are having only permanent interests, not their when
No.
when the
No,
interest
there's no friends in this.
can get
Oh, well,
they can get new friends, and that will be my conclusion at this point. Thank you.
okay. Well, thank you so much. So, Justin, I just wanted to let you know we have about 4 minutes, so we will close off
Yes.
with your statement. The last thing Mr. Semviuver said reminded me of Henry Kissinger's famous saying, "It is dangerous to be an enemy of America, but it is fatal to be an ally of America." So I've always
Hmm.
thought that's an amazing saying.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bahunga, we'll let you close out for us.
Oh, thank you very much. I think what you are saying about who is going to stop, who will stop it in the how, in the how. To stop it, only Kagame can do it. But I was saying has got a problem. Has got a problem with saying if I give in, then I'm at the Hague, all this is going to happen. But then there's what else can force him is these sanctions. Because Rwanda desperately lives on image. The image is tainted now, is stained now because of what they have done. And I was saying, Yumva, there's nothing you can hide now. And the world is outraged. And you know, these Western countries, the politicians might have a point, but when it comes to public knowledge, they rarely resist. And if you look at the media, if you look at the resolution of the Security Council, you see the resolution of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. You see Rwanda not being voted in the Council of African Security and Peace and Security Council. Then you ask yourself, that image is gone. Secondly, at the political economic level, Rwanda is over dependent on aid. Even the budget itself, 43% of the budget is from foreign aid. If we remove it, then if they have to chip in, then there'll be less money to spend on the war. So, and of course, they want to, and if they won't do it, they want to have the discontent, dissatisfaction. The situation was bad, and now it is worse. Secondly, there is the money get from the mines economically, because you can't wage war without money. Now, the EU already had said going to review the sale of the minerals from Rwanda, and everybody else will follow. They put to court Apple. Others will follow. Nobody would like to be seen to be around dealing with a killer, someone who's identified as a killer, someone committed heinous crimes, soon to be genocide. I was listening to one of the African Court of Open Human Rights. They were saying that was genocide. What they were saying, they called the Bichuchu. Said that's the preparation of genocide. So they did. So, you were saying so they have accused the Rwanda at East African Court, at African Court of People's Human Rights, at ICC. All these things leave a mark on Rwanda. So to resist, one thing resisting is just suicidal. And of course, as you know, even the public image in Rwanda, by saying that America and the US have gone against him, is going to have another impact on his image even in the country. And you can't know what could happen. Even the military. The point is, those military who are continuing along with it, definitely going to follow. They know they will be hunted as they are trying their hunting after Interahamwe. So all this psychologically it's going to have an impact on the military, and also and of course the numbers. Rwanda had not unlimited the number of people who can go to die as have been dying. Congo has got 100 million. You can sense how many, and that but not one that don't have that capacity. Even the area of control, North and South Kivu, are about 124,000 square kilometers. That's 4 times the size of Rwanda. How do you control that area? And it is said that Congo has gotten about between 300 and 400,000 people who